Miami Hall. Stand by me, stand by me.
Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living San Jose, where we are transforming lives, building dreams, and revealing love, where all that we ask is that you stay open to the possibility of changing your entire life by changing your mind. Welcome home. My name is Barbara Valdez, and I'm a practitioner in training. And this is Debbie Slayton, your professional prayer practitioner of the day. And we are so happy that you are here. I'd like to extend an especially warm welcome to anyone here for the first time. Thank you for choosing to spend your Sunday morning with us. I invite you to go to the concierge table in Fellowship Hall after service and pick up a welcome packet and sign our guest book. The welcome packet has a gift for you, and concierge team members will be happy to answer any questions you might have about who we are and what we do. Or if you prefer, you can pick up a welcome packet in the foyer on your way out. Now, let's celebrate being in community. Please take a moment to turn and greet your neighbors. And now we have a special announcement about all those incredibly gorgeous, fluffy guests that you see sitting next to you, behind you, on top of you, up on your shoulders.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dorcas Kelly, and I lead the CSL Community Outreach Team. We're the folks that bring you various projects during the year that benefit the larger Santa Clara County. So, like collecting coats for the homeless and doing food drives and stuffed animals and writing letters to active military, all those sorts of things. The outreach team is the brains behind that. And you might have noticed our special guest today. These are all stuffed animals that you guys have donated out of your generosity for children that are entering the foster care system. And I have more animals than we had chairs in the sanctuary. Yay! Woo! So all of these animals, they're destined for a child that's entering foster care in basically Santa Clara, but also we have so many, maybe San Mateo County as well too. And these kids typically are getting removed from their families, and they are scared, and they are alone. So our job today is to fill all of these animals with as much love as we can possibly squeeze into them. So I'm hoping that you will love, hug, put your prayers in, your best wishes, your good intentions, your good thoughts, your joy into these animals during the service, and also feel free to pass them around, so that each animal can have multiple folks loving them up, and that you also get multiple folks to love as well too. So there's one little piece of bad news in this. you don't get to take them home with you. Sorry. This is an instance where I'm actually going to ask you to love them and leave them. Yeah. Well, do it again, Larry. This time I'm asking you to. That's great. So my request is that when we're done with service, that you actually take the animal that you have, and maybe some that are nearby you, and take them with you when you exit. There'll be people at each of the exits to collect them, because we're going to be bagging them and actually taking them to the children tomorrow. So you can really help us in that. Not only loving them up, but also kind of transporting them. I'm seeing people like toss them back and forth. It's just great. What fun. Better than beach balls. So the one last little plug I want to put in here is that if you're interested in doing outreach work, we have a fabulous team. I would love for you to check out our team. We meet every month on the second Sunday. You're welcome to come and ask me or somebody else. We're an outreach team tag, and we'll tell you about our outreach efforts. It is so much fun, as you can see. It's just a blast. Thank you again for your generosity.
Thank you, Dorcas. Each week, we dedicate a few minutes of our service to sitting in silence. Please help us ensure a sacred environment by double-checking that you've turned off all your electronic devices, and then join the musicians as they lead us into the silence with a chant.
Getting strong now, won't be long now. Gonna fly now, flying high now. Getting strong now, won't be long now. Gonna fly now, flying high now. Getting strong now, won't be long now. Gonna fly.
Please join me in prayer. I know, you know, that there is only one Spirit, one mind, one universal God that loves us unconditionally. And I speak that truth for myself, and I speak that truth for everyone here, that we are all being nourished by our thoughts, nourished by our heart, and that just as the earth is being nourished by this rain, We fertilize the soil of our heart and our mind with these thoughts. We are spiritual gardeners, tapping into the strength of God, the attributes of God. And I want you to work with me as we plant a seed in our heart and our mind. We plant the seed of God's courage. Then plant the seed of God's faith, God's strength, God's compassion, God's beauty, wisdom, grace. And as each one of these seeds have been pushed into the soil of your heart and mind, you take this time to allow that garden to grow and bloom and tend it, using God's wisdom to pull the weeds, the thoughts that aren't serving you. And know that we always have the choice to live this magnificent, wonderful life that we have. And with this grace and wisdom, I say thank you. Thank you for the blessings in our life. Thank you for the people in the seats next to you. Thank you for everyone in this congregation, community, and throughout the world. Thank you, God, for these gifts, these blessings, and I'm so grateful. And I release this prayer into the law, knowing that once a prayer is prayed, it is nestled and tender in the heart and mind of God. And so it is. Please join me in doing the affirmation for March. There is a peace, a divine, harmonious, dynamic, creative action at the center of my being. Every breath I draw, every beat of my heart is the perfect rhythmic action of life itself.
It's so fantastic to be a part of this community because I never know when inspiration is going to strike. For example, last week at this second service, I was seated right back there, and I had my whole set list planned out for this week. And then I started hearing this talk about Oscar, and it became clear that all of the songs today have to do with cinema. So all of today's songs come from films. Films we love, films we love to hate, films we hate to love. Even our chant today was brought to us by the good people from Rocky III. I don't know if you caught on to that. Nice. My first set got vetoed, though. I wanted to do a musical tribute to Dirty Dancing. I called it Nobody Puts Dr. David in the Corner. Right out. We hope you can dance to this instead. When people keep repeating that you will never fall in love, when everybody keeps retreating and you can't seem to get enough, let our love open the door. Let our love open the door. Let our love open the door to your heart. When everything feels all over and everybody seems unkind, I'll give you a four-leaf clover. Take all the worries out of your mind. Come on. Let our love open the door. Let our love open the door. Let our love open the door to your heart. Let our love open the door. It's all we're living for. Release yourself from misery. Only one thing that's gonna set you free. That's our love. That's our love. Say, let our love open the door. Let our love open the door. Let our love open the door. Gentlemen, keep singing that. Let our love open. Ladies, sing this. Let our love open the door. Let our love open the door. Let our love open the door. Let our love. Just you. Here we go now. Let our love. tragedy befalls you, don't let it bring you down. Love can cure our problems. We're so lucky we're around. Again, let our love open the door. Let our love open the door. Let our love open the door to our heart. To our heart.
Good morning. I'm Megan Dake Morrell, your Insight speaker for today. It's very... Welcome to my numinous experience. As I got here this morning, well, first of all, I want to say that I practiced this talk many times and couldn't get it under 7 minutes. So I'm going to start with the end first, and that way somewhere in the middle the piano will come on and I'll stop. So, so I'm claiming today is my new birthday, I think. I'm still weepy. Okay. So I got here this morning and realized that the talk was on community, and that has to do with this numinous experience that I'm having. And not only that, there were stuffed animals on every single chair, but I didn't realize that at first, and I thought people were already here for the service and that it was packed and that it was just the first service. So, hi, second service. It's really good to be here, and you are all real people in the seats, and I am up here pretty real in front of you, having had my unbelief healed. Now, I'm a practitioner at this center for a few years now, and I'm a ministerial student who's going to graduate in June. And yeah. And you'd think I'd have that nailed, that unbelief thing, and I thought I did too. So here's the guts of the story. Reverend Susan had come back from Orlando a couple weeks ago, and man, she was full of it. I mean, she was, in a good way, she was full of the energy of the conference. And she was up there teaching, she was talking about this, her own numinous experience, which you can ask her about in another hour or so. And she was talking from the book E Squared. And she read to us a challenge that she took at the beginning that led to this amazing experience she had. She said, there is an invisible energy, force, or field of infinite possibilities. The experiment could best be described as an ultimatum. You're going to give the force exactly 48 hours to make its presence known. You're going to demand a clear, unmistakable sign, something that cannot be written off as coincidence. And man, the experience she had was amazing. So I thought, well, I can do that. I've had the parking space that I affirmed and the lunch that I was taken to when I forgot mine at home. And, you know, I know that there's a field of possibility and it's responsive, but I wanted one of those big Broadway, come get me sort of signs. So I took her up on her challenge, and my friend Doris did too. So at about hour 24, not much was happening except my phone rang and Doris called and she said, did you get yours? I said, not yet. She said, I got mine. I thought, oh, okay, keep your mind open, something's coming. It's going to be. And it was like about hour 40, and my week had started to erupt. I was having weepiness for no reason. I was having doubt. I was having all kinds of things. I couldn't figure out what was happening. After all, I had affirmed a great sign from somewhere. It wasn't supposed to unzip and have, you know, stormy weather. But storming it was, and that's when Reverend Susan walked into my office and asked me to do this power talk, and I thought, from here? I mean, I was raw, and I told her yes anyway, because that's what we do. And noticed that it was like hour 40, so I couldn't really talk about this thing manifesting or, some great communication from God. And the talk set off this whole chain of events where I was talking to my partner about what was going on with this thing and how bad I was feeling and how worse it got when I hit hour 60 and still no communication came. And she suggested that might be food for a power talk. I was kind of trying to figure out how I got up here as a failure in front of you guys and made that powerful. And then I went to Reverend Susan's office and thought, well, let's go where this all began. So I sat down. I said, nothing's happening. She chatted with me a little bit, and I when it doesn't work, we don't want it to be that our belief system was at fault at all or our attachment to it. We want it to be that a light bulb is out in the light and information of the universe. All the lights were working. It was my belief system. And as I talked to Susan, she read me this piece from the book that she didn't say in her talk. If you've read The Secret or been in metaphysical spiritual circles for any time at all, there's that piano. And you already know your thoughts create your reality, and there's a power in the universe that can heal, and you alone can design your life. We know all that. We live that, we pray with that, but you don't really believe it. That's the itty-bitty catch. You don't really believe it, not fully. And what I found that I was living out a belief, and I said earlier, beliefs are like heroin when they're those beliefs you don't want. They kind of get into your cells. And as you lose spiritual weight, they kind of release like heroin and you have a little flashback. And so my flashback was about not belonging and was that God will heal you and my prayers will work for you, but that intimate contact, direct knowing through the divine, it's not going to happen for me. I'm outside of that territory. And coming upon that belief was exquisite for me. My final frontier is my weight. This is not the body I identify with. What you see is not who I feel like is talking to you. So in my own body, I have become a stranger, and I do not fit. This does not fit me. This is not who I am. And it has been an experience beyond recognition for me to find that I've known about that belief, but to have it by the cojones. I mean, to really have it. And I can send it to some distant beach, and I want the whole room to know with me that we're sending our unbelief to some distant beach, some distant planet where it can enjoy itself and bug somebody else. But it's gone, and I get to be released into a place of knowing. And with that knowing, I can create anything, and I can demand, damn it, show up. And it did. She came in at hour 40. And started the ball rolling. So I got my communication. I'm very happy. Thank you.
There's a piece to that story that you may not know, and that is a few weeks ago I asked her if she would do a power talk, and she told me no. Yeah, apparently Reverend Susan always gets the yes, I got the no. But the fact that Reverend Susan walked into her office and said, will you do a power talk? And she immediately said yes, was the unavoidable, powerful presence of the thing itself, because I knew that Megan didn't want to stand here, especially since cameras went in, because she was facing that tends to add to one's bulk. And so she kept saying no. And so for those of you who think that miracles don't happen, the way that Reverend Susan walked into her office and then Megan just said yes, that's a miracle. So, yes, thank you. And you're pretty good. Really good, I'm liking it. So what do you think of this? Yeah? So, some of you are thinking, well, he's just dressed early for the Academy Awards night, and I hope he's got some really good deodorant.
because it's a really long day for a minister. But I just want to tell you the truth. Okay, this is the truth. Why I'm wearing a tuxedo today. This is God's honest truth. I own 2 tuxedos, both of which I absolutely adore. I love them. Sometimes I get into my closet. It's the only time I go back in the closet. I get in the closet. I like to touch them. And truth be told, I have 2 tuxedos, and I couldn't choose which one I was going to wear, so I decided today that I would wear both. So I'm just wearing this one now, and then I'll wear the other one later on. A couple of public service announcements. One is that Pearl Vickers is our bookstore manager, and she lives in Santa Cruz. And she recently was offered a job close to her home doing exactly what she's been praying for. So Pearl Vickers has given notice. So if you have a calling to serve at a pretty minimal amount of income, but it's about 8 hours a week, and that's your area of calling, see me after service, and we'll talk a little bit. That was one thing I wanted to tell you. Another is that I know that many of you wanted to go to Bali, and you're having difficulty getting your questions answered because attachments and downloads don't work for you. Well, Geeta, who is from Spirit Tours, the group with whom we go to Bali in 2015, and we're going in January. Geeta is here to help you register, to help you with any questions you may have. Geeta, are you in the room? Geeta, would you stand up so we can see you? This is Geeta. And Geeta is fantastic to travel with. So there were 35 of us from the San Jose Center who were with Geeta and Geeta's father and brother and Dr. Edward in Bali last month. And there are 34 spaces for those of you who want to go in 2015. Although 16 of them have booked, so there are now 18. What? 17. There are now 17. So there are now 17 positions available if you want to go to Bali. See her after service. So I'm facilitating a course. Tomorrow is the last of the 4-week series. It's called How to Be an Adult in Relationships. And I'm really loving this course because the content matters in my life. How to be an adult in relationships is really important to me because being an adult in relationships allows me to be directive and to be direct, to be nurturing and to be nurtured, to be able to ask for what I want and to take what I get. Now, I've known a lot of folks, I still know a lot of folks who are so hungry to be in relationship, intimate relationship, that they spend a good deal of time online with dating sites, all of which I think is fantastic and I bless. However, I find it ironic that folks are looking to be in relationships, so they isolate themselves in their room to be in front of their computer to find someone to be with. I find it ironic that they want to be with people, so they sit outside of the parking lot of a crowded mall or Pete's or Starbucks or Subway, all of which are peopled with people, but they sit outside with their mobile phones and their mobile devices hoping to connect with somebody. I find that ironic, don't you? Yes. Some of you don't. I'm okay with that. I just want to know where to take this. So one of the greatest learnings I've had in the preparation for how to be an adult in relationships, one of the greatest gifts I've gotten is the clarity that so many relationships that I have known and I've known about have failed because the people in them place a great deal of demand upon the other person in the relationship to be everything for the mate. So I've watched relationship after relationship after relationship, mine and others, fail when the people in the relationship expect their partner, their spouse, their mate, expect their husband or their wife to be absolutely everything for them. And this is a problem, see. I dare say that most people who think they need a relationship really don't need a relationship. I dare say the people who believe they need a relationship, what they really need is community. To be part of a community, to impact a community, and to be impacted by a community, to create a sense of belonging for others, and to have the experience of belonging that emerges from community. And ironically, if you want some more irony, I have found over and over again when people dive headfirst into creating community for themselves or to participating in the community they've already got. Because by the way, if you're here, even if you're a visitor, even if you mistook us for St. Mary's, and you're too afraid to get out. This is God's doing. You've already automatically got a community. So there's no reason for anybody to go home today and to be lonely when you have the opportunity to actually make a connection, to be connected, and to make an impact in the lives of other people, and to set the ball rolling for your sense of purpose and belonging. So the other sense of irony is forgotten. It was good. I'm sorry you missed it. Oh, people who stop looking, who stop making that their primary goal. It's like people who are looking to have babies, and they try so hard to have babies, which is fun for one and not so fun for the other. They try so hard to have babies, and then the baby thing doesn't happen, and then they adopt, and right after adopting, they get pregnant. When we stop trying to push the river, but instead get into the river, we find that we're not alone in it. So the other bit of irony is how often people find their mate when they're just being part of community and no longer actively demanding to get it. Because that demanding sometimes comes off as desperation. And desperation is actually a deflective, reflective, negative quality. Desperation has never won a relationship. It may win a battle for a little while, but desperation actually causes people to run away. So instead, what I'm offering that we do today, the assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to create a new unity. And a new unity is where you're no longer an observer in your world. You're no longer like the passerby. You're no longer the person at the marathon that's standing on the side, wishing that someday you were, or criticizing others for doing it. Instead, you are standing there on the sidelines, perhaps because maybe your job is not to run, but you're passing out water cups or slices of orange, or helping to clean up afterward, or cheering people on. You're actually participating in your world. You're getting out of the stands and out of the bleachers and onto the court of your life. This is where spirituality is at its finest and its deepest. Spirituality is not a concept. And waiting for God to make itself shown has never worked for me. But I have seen God appear over and over and over, and it shows up at dinner parties and in restaurants and at Trader Joe's and at Walgreens, and it shows up when I'm actually moving away from my comfort zone and I communicate with people, that I'm not like lurking on the edges, but I actually come into the center. Now, not that lurking is a bad thing. I like to lurk. I don't really want you to know that, but you might as well. And I know that there are those that are introverts. Not everyone's an extrovert. So I realize that some on the outer edges are introverted. But introverts can be just as fully immersed in community from their introvertedness. Everybody doesn't have to be extroverted, and everybody doesn't have to be introverted. It's a beauty when they come together. Because if I didn't have introverts in my life, who would listen? Because I'm a horrible listener. Horrible. When you come to me with a broken heart, God bless you. That's why I surround myself with compassionate, kind people, because it ain't me. But I'm smart enough to know that I need to have those around me. This is what community happens. We each have our own role. So I'm asking you to take on as an assignment, stand for something. Take a stand for your life, and take a stand for the lives of other people. Stand for it. One of my early teachers said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Stand for it. Take a stand for something. Our topic is a new unity. And if you read the book of the year, which is A New Design for Living, the 2-paragraph chapter on a new unity basically is that the highest God and the innermost God is the same God. The big thing itself that rules the cosmos, that causes Earth and Mars and Venus and Neptune to remain perfectly tilted upon their axes as they move about the sun. That same power is the same one that is right now causing your heart to beat and your blood to flow and your skin to regenerate. The highest God and the innermost God is the same God. That's the new unity. And for us to actually use it, you know, like Megan used it to come up here, not even realizing that a miracle was happening in her yes, because she was so prepared with her no's. In order for us to use it, I think it's important for us to use it without doubt. This is going to be the greatest challenge for most of us. Not how to get the lottery numbers or how to hit the lottery with a relationship or how to make my current relationship latorical. The greatest challenge will be, mostly for us, how to do life itself with a minimum of doubt. Now, doubt exists, and it ought to, because if we knew everything, then there would be nothing that is possible. Possibility emerges in that which we don't know. However, we can have assuredness that it's all going to work out without knowing how it's going to work out. Even if the working out of it is the unraveling of it, the falling apart of it, the crumbling of it. That too is working out. Ask any addict. But if we have, imagine if Martin Luther King had doubt. Imagine, I have a dream, but I don't think you're ready for it. Or imagine if scriptures were, let there be lights. I hope it works. That's not a universe we can depend upon. I know that's funny. And you guys are like, that's really good. And I wonder if I have to go to Trader Joe's on my way. Do I have milk in the refrigerator? Those kind of thoughts will take us away. We get very interested in the machinations of our thinking. There's a tendency for us to really think that what we have to think is interesting. And then we think that what we're thinking matters. And then we think that what we're thinking is true. I really believe it's important to not believe everything that I think. And when I forget, Mauricio reminds me. There are 4 people that have stirred me this week, in addition to many of you. 4 people who have stirred me that I've just read about, who have taken a stand, but they've taken a stand each in their own way. One of them is a man named Moin Khan. Moin Khan, Pakistani. Born in Lahore, Pakistan. Moved to the United States just to get his degree, and he moved to San Francisco. He found he was immediately disappointed and saddened by the perspective of Pakistanis from Western media. And he decided to make an impact, to take a stand for people seeing a different aspect of Pakistan. So what he determined he would do was to do what he could do in the way that he could do it. See, when he lived in Pakistan, he loved his scooters, but when he moved to the United States, he discovered motorcycles, and like big motorcycles. When you go to Bali, a big motorcycle is a 250cc, but in the U.S., a 250cc is something you don't even want on the freeway. And so for Moin Khan, he fell in love with and got passionate about. His heart began to race. You know, like the thing that melted his butter and floated his boat was a 1,000cc motorcycle. So he determined that this is what he was going to do to alter people's view of Pakistanis. He was simply going to ride from San Francisco to the east coast of the United States, take his bike onto a ship, disembark that ship in Europe, right across the Mideast, and back to Pakistan. He just wanted to drive 25,000 miles without a GPS and without maps, so that he would on purpose get lost about 50 times a day, thereby giving him the opportunity to speak to about 50 different people every day, to simply say this: my name is Moin Khan. I'm Pakistani. I'm Muslim. I'm not a terrorist. And so, his 6-month journey is what he did just that. And it wasn't always easy. There was a point in time when he was in Turkey, and there was some heavy snow and sleet and frozen rain. And so he dressed as well as he could, even putting plastic bags on his shoes, on his feet before he put them into his boots. And the bike that he bought, by the way, was not made for water or for snow. So he spent 6 days driving at about 3 miles per hour for 8 to 10 hours at a time, and traveling a total distance in 6 days of 186 miles. He is what I would call unstoppable. How about you? Are you unstoppable? Or do you yield when it's raining? Oh, I can't go out, it's raining. I'm conflicted. There's a drought, and I want to take my boat onto the Delta in the summer, but I don't want to go out in the rain. That's not unstoppable. He was hit head on in an automobile, one of his 3 major motorcycle accidents, one of 3 major accidents. He was hit head on, many broken bones, hospitalized in Germany. A Romanian and a Serbian heard about what he was up to. They got on Facebook and started asking people to send parts, and all of a sudden parts from all over the world were arriving in Romania and Serbia, and these 2 guys then drove the parts to Germany and reassembled his motorcycle while he mended himself in the hospital, the bill of which, by the way, was never given to him because the nurses said, you're up to something. And so the world will support you when you take a stand. That's Moin Khan. Now, what is he doing now? He made it. He got there. So what's next? He started a motorcycle school for girls because he wants women, the women of Pakistan. He said he's not going to stop teaching the women of Pakistan to ride motorcycles. He won't stop teaching them until women of Pakistan are as free as any woman in any nation, anywhere else in the world. So, take a stand. That's a new unity. How are you going to do it? I don't know. I'll ride a motorcycle. Another way to take a stand. Her name is Tinny Davidson. And Tinny Davidson is an elderly woman. Tinny Davidson and her husband moved into a new house about 9 years ago. And the house is just a few buildings from the local high school. And 9 years ago, when she and her husband moved into the house as retirees, they sat down in the living room and they noticed all the high school kids walking in front of their house on their way to school. Well, Tinny decided that a lot of kids were looking in, and she thought it would be kind of weird for her just to stare back. So she thought, when they look in, I will wave. So they'd look in and she'd wave, and they'd go like, they're high school kids. And they'd wave. So every day, every kid that would walk by, anyone that would look in, she would wave. And she would just wave and wave for hours. She waved when kids went to school. She waved when they dispersed for lunch. And she waved when they left school to go home. This has gone on now for 9 years. For 9 years. I mean, some kids walk by. They were interviewed by the local news. These kids, they were like, well, what did you think of it? They're like teenagers. Well, at first I thought it was kind of weird, but now it's kind of weird to not. Peer pressure is not a bad thing. Like, peer pressure will tell you, zip up your pants, flush the toilet. You should say hi when someone says hi to you. Peer pressure is not necessarily a bad thing. So when Tinny would wave, kids would like wave, and then the more they waved, the more they realized that they were part of a community. So you think, well, that's nice, cute. That's like a YouTube. Oh, it's sweet. Can't wait to tell my girlfriends about this. But it's bigger than that, see, the impact Tinny has. Just sitting in her chair waving, the impact. She was invited recently to a rally at the high school. She was invited to a rally on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February. She didn't know why they were inviting her. The whole school had come together to talk about this woman who sits in her living room and waves to them. And they started sharing stories about how they were depressed and they thought that nobody loved them, and then this crazy woman was waving at them, or their mom and dad are getting a divorce and they think that the world really sucks, and then this crazy woman waved at them, and so on and so on and so on. So they had this rally so that they could give Tinny Davidson a rock star welcome. And they had videos that the kids made, these homemade videos, and they're pretty good. These are kids making these videos, and kids got on the microphone to say thank you, and then they came out with this basket about this big around, about this deep, with big handles on it, jam-packed with handmade, handwritten Valentine's Day card for this local woman. Who thinks that sitting in your chair waving is not making an impact in the world? Alora Hardy Elora, E-L-O-R-A, Elora Hardy, born and raised in Bali by ultra-liberal parents, crazy, wacky artist type, totally from the Bay Area type of crazy parents, you know. So they were in Bali, and they knew that their daughter she was like drawn to architecture. So they encouraged her, draw the kind of house you'd like to build one day. So she drew this as a little girl, like 5 or 6 years old. She drew this drawing of what she called the mushroom fairy house. It looks like this big mushroom with windows and little fairies flying around it. And then she put the paper down and she grew up. And she ended up moving to New York City, where she became the designer of amazing fabrics. Her fabrics are used by people like Donna Karan, and her fabrics, you've all seen them. You've seen them on runways. You've seen them in magazines. You've seen them on TV. And she became a superstar with fabric. She became a fashion icon. But all the while, she had what we call divine discontent. Divine? Do you know what I'm talking about? Divine discontent. Because all she could think about was a clump of bamboo growing outside the door of her dad's house in Bali. And how she wanted nothing more than to saw it down and begin whittling it into pieces of floor and wall and ceiling. But she didn't have any credentials. She had no degree. She probably didn't know what you may not know, and that's this. Did you know that Jesus did not have any credentials? Do you know that he was not cum laude? He didn't have a degree. He didn't even have a good reference. But apparently he made quite an impact. So, she didn't have a degree, but she could no longer resist the compulsion to go home. And so she quit her job in New York. She flew back to Bali. She got some locals together, some local artist-type people, artisan, craftsmen, and she got them excited. And she found some people to donate some architecture plans, some blueprints. And then these professional people, dressed kind of like me, they're dressed and they're making these beautiful prints of these bamboo sustainable houses. The kind of houses, by the way, that do not damage the land. The land doesn't have to be destroyed or raped. Instead, very little change happens to the earth, but these bamboo houses, which are extraordinary, appear. So she had these blueprints, and she gives them to the local craftsmen. And if you've been to Bali, and if you've not been to Bali, you need to go to Bali. If you're waiting for a sign, I am your sign. Go to Bali. So when you go home, you're going to say, God said, go to Bali. And he did. So where was I? I was having a revelation. She got these craftsmen together, and they thought these plans were fantastic, to lay down onto the cold, damp earth and to lay a pond to take their naps. She found out something about Balinese. They don't want the blueprints. They work with real models. So she and these craftsmen started making these little models of these houses and testing them. And eventually, the houses were built. And I'm in contact with Elora. I was in contact. We made contact. Thank God for Facebook. We made contact. And I'm setting the ball rolling. Hopefully, Gita, our trip on January, when we leave Ubud to head back to the airport, we drive right past 12 of these houses. I want to see them. But Elora tells people in this, she said that people evolve. Like she evolved from being a fabric maker to being the maker of sustainable future housing that withstand earthquakes, that withstand pestilence, and that create beauty and create jobs for the locals and create a serene, amazing. Doesn't this make you just want to, like, I want a bamboo mushroom fairy house, but my friends would never go for it. So I'm hoping to drive by there next January. So Elora said there are three ways that people evolve. 3 ways that people evolve from being the fabric maker in New York to going back to Bali. There's 3 ways that we evolve from being a parent that is questionable to being extraordinary. There's 3 ways that we evolve from being a me partner to being a glorious, giving, generous being. One is through crisis, earthquake, job loss, cancer, breakup. The second way that we evolve is we evolve as society evolves. Society sort of pushes you along, and it's a slow way of evolution. Its end result is guaranteed, but it's slow. The third way is, she said, is why all of you are here today. It's whatever it is that gets you up in the morning, that you take a personal stand, whether or not you're prepared, whether or not you have the qualifications or the education. You take a stand and you learn what you need to learn along the way. You take a stand. Some of you are like, well, what difference am I going to make? I don't know. You start today. How do you learn to fly a plane? You take the first lesson. How do you learn to play the piano? You sit down and you put your hands on the keyboard. How do you learn to be in a loving relationship? You learn to not say everything you think. The last illustration is a man named, that I want to share with you before I close, Benjamin Zander. Benjamin Zander. He is a conductor, orchestras, British, wacky, crazy, brilliant, genius, amazing, totally engrossed in his life, and he's invested in empowering. His life exists so that he can empower other people. There's a TED Talk. You should watch it. It's 20 minutes. Brilliant. In these 20 minutes, Zander basically comes down to one main point. And that is that the conductor of an orchestra doesn't make a sound. The conductor's job, he said, well, of course the conductor's is on the cover of the album. It's on the, that's the conductor. But the conductor does not make the sound. The orchestra makes the sound. The conductor's job is to empower the people. And he said when he had that revelation, his whole music career changed. When he had that revelation, even his orchestra said, what's different? And he said, the game has changed. I realize what's different now for me is I don't have to make good music. My job is to inspire you, to empower you to make good music. And he said there's a measure. He can tell when he's empowered people. You can tell when you've empowered your kids. You can tell when you've empowered your spouse. You can tell when you've empowered your employees. Here's how you tell. Their eyes sparkle. You want your kids and your spouse and your coworkers, you want your orchestra to have sparkly eyes. And when their eyes sparkle, you know you're doing your job. So he says he asks himself this question, when their eyes are not sparkling, who am I being that my orchestra's eyes aren't sparkling? Who am I being that my children's eyes are not sparkling? And you can do something about that. That's something you can do about. And you're not going to do that while you're just trying to find a date. You're going to do that when you move into your community and you make a contribution. So the closing point I want to make with you is from Zander, Benjamin Zander. He met a woman who had survived Auschwitz. Not many did, but those that did, have a story to tell and had a story to tell. And I don't know about you, but I want to hear it. This particular woman told Zander, Benjamin Zander, about being on the train for Auschwitz. She was 15 years old. She was on the train with her 8-year-old brother. Their parents were already lost. Those two didn't know what faced them, what they were facing. And she, the elder sister, looked down and saw her brother's feet were bare. He had no shoes. And she started yelling at him, "Why are you so stupid? Why can't you keep track of your things? Do I always have to remind you?" And she says that it was the last thing she ever had a chance to say to him, because she never saw him again. When she emerged from Auschwitz, she said she left Auschwitz and went right into life. And the way she did that was by taking a vow. She took a stand. And the vow that she took was this: I walked out of Auschwitz and into life, and I made a vow that I will never say anything that couldn't stand as the last thing that I will ever say. Xander says, can we do that? No. And we'll make ourselves wrong for trying and failing and trying and failing and trying to failing. However, this is where your spirituality comes to play. That is a possibility to live into. Let's pray. I'm very grateful to be here in this room, to be with these people at this time, at this place, with those joining us on live stream right now and those who are listening on MP3 at the gym, in their car, as they walk. Because we as a community have a power about us that we can use today to make an impact in the world. And the power is this: that we live so generously with our attention and our time that others' eyes begin to sparkle. It's an easy measure, and it's one that I'm willing to take on. It will show up. This is my promise and my vow and the stand that I will take. It'll show up in the way I talk to people at Pete's and at Starbucks and at Willow Glen Roasting Company. It will show up while I'm dealing with customer service at Amazon and Craigslist. It will show up this week in counseling and in teaching. It'll show up as I glance at the person next to me at a traffic stoplight. It'll show up at my home, in my relationship, in our bed. It'll show up in the way I speak to my mother on the telephone. And mostly, I expect that it shows up in my watching you as you transform the world. And that makes me really happy. And so it is. We're going to close. We're going to close out the animal blessing. Rather than me praying for the animals, I'm going to ask you to help. The way we will do that is through song. So when Ian comes back up here and sings, I invite you to take any loose animal and loose people that are near you and bring them into your embrace. If you see any like on the backs of seats, bring them into your lap too. If you see somebody with an empty hand and their arms are closed, leave them alone. I just want to express my deep gratitude for your generosity for these animals, and I'm also deeply grateful for the team that is the outreach, to putting this together. Because you guys may not know this, but in the greater Bay Area, there are 30,000 foster children. 30,000 foster children, and more are going into the system every day, and you're now making an impact. So thank you. But before we do that, we have the sharing of our gifts and tithes and offerings, and the ushers are going to come forward and help us with that. Those of you online, many of you have called, written, and texted me and asked me how you could participate. So here's how we figured it out. We have a button on our CSLSJ for Center for Spiritual Living San Jose, CSLSJ website that says donate. If you want to donate, click on that donate button and say with me our giving affirmation, everybody, please. This is March's giving affirmation. I bless the past, accept the present, and praise the future. I give thanks for the miracle of life and how it blesses me. I am inspired to love and serve the world.
So we have movies, and we're in the company of stuffed animals, and in the middle of that Venn diagram, this seemed like a no-brainer. There's so many songs about rainbows and what's on the other side. Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Everybody. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers and me, all of us under its spell. We know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep? And have you heard the voices? Well, I've heard them calling my name. Sing it again. Is it the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it far too many times to ignore it. It's something that we're supposed to be. Sing along. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers and me. Hold them up. La da da dee da da da, la da la da da da. Dave DeLulo on drums, Tammy Hall on piano, DJ Thermos on guitar.
You guys stand up and hold up your animals for a selfie. Excellent, thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm so happy to be back. I missed you guys. Okay, a few quick things because we got to get this room turned around. Now that we have finished blessing the stuffed animals, our March outreach is all about real animals, animal relief awareness. Did you know perhaps you didn't know that homeless animals outnumber homeless people 5 to 1. So our project in March will be animal relief awareness. You can talk to Dorcas about that afterwards. I have no idea how they're going to get the real animals on the back of the seats in the end of the month, but you know, Dorcas can do anything. Tonight, Sunday night, is the Oscar party right here at 5 o'clock. This space will be transformed as soon as we can get out of here. And there are no conversations with God tonight, unless you're waiting backstage at the Oscars. Oh. Just kidding. The actual book study group is not meeting tonight because of the Oscars, but please have your own conversation with God. We encourage that a lot. As David had mentioned, Gita will be under the plasma screen in Fellowship Hall after service to answer all of your questions about the fabulous trip to Bali. This week, very quickly, we have Change Your Posture, Change Your Life, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have prayer circles on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, led by practitioner emeritus Madeline Vanderhorst. Come here 12 to 1 and just take a seat and be in a prayer circle. It's beautiful. David's drop-in coaching, as he mentioned, Wednesday night starting at 5:45 for 1 hour starting this Wednesday. And then Wednesdays at 7, Sowing Seeds of Greatness. This week is all about connection. No, we're not doing Mardi Gras Tuesday, sadly, but on Thursday, we are having Awaken Thursday. You can come at 7 p.m. and sit in the silence for an hour, short reading at 8 o'clock, and then we share a meal together in the silence. It's a fabulous holy night. I hope you can be here for all of them. A week from this Tuesday, not this Tuesday, but on the 11th is the Better Business Breakfast. Mark your calendars. And then, David, can you come up and quickly tell folks about March 15th? Poor David. He's not from Brooklyn. I don't know if I could talk as fast as her.
I'll try. First of all, I'm very thankful for Dr. David and Megan. All you guys really inspire me. This expo is going to be here in 2 weeks, March 15th. The name of the expo is Education Options Expo, and the purpose is to empower parents who want to learn about different educational options. So there can be democratic schooling, homeschooling, unschooling, private schooling. I have 5 speakers confirmed, one from New York, one from LA specifically for this event. So if you have young ones K through high school, they're invited, and it's going to be here in 2 weeks, March 15th. Everyone's invited, and so it's going to be really empowering for the youth. And let's, like Dr. Davis, let's take a stand. So I'm taking a stand for the youth. That's why I decided to do this program. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for bringing that here. We're really honored to be partnering with you. Thank you. Next Sunday, it is the saddest day of the year because we put the clocks ahead 1 hour. I know. So don't make big plans for Saturday night. Before you go to sleep, push your clock ahead for an hour, or you're going to be here really late. March 9th, spring forward. And then if you happen to be a CPA, could you talk to Megan after service? We are looking for a certified public accountant who can assist us by performing an annual, like the end of year nonprofit review for us, and Megan can talk to you about that. Certificated classes, we're really excited. This is how you can really continue your transformation, right? This is how you can continue to be unstoppable. Classes begin the week of March 17th. There are 3 of them. Foundations with Dr. David and I on Monday evenings from 7 to 10. Practical Mysticism on Tuesday evenings from 7 to 10 with Maureen Ross. And then April 3rd, 2 weeks later, Megan Dake Morrell will begin Mind-Body Connection. So it's all of them. They're all powerful. They're all amazing. They're all life-transforming. There is no reason not to take a class. None. We have scholarships. We have partial scholarships. If you would like a scholarship, the applications are due next Sunday, March 9th, when you get here, like an hour late. No, I'm kidding. When you do your clock. So please talk to Max Overland, any of the concierge people. We can get you signed up. Your life will never be the same. Seriously. A lot happens on Sunday, but if you really, really want to change your life, do so in a classroom. I think that's it, other than birthdays. If you had a birthday yesterday, or you have one coming up in the month of March, or today, please stand, raise your hand, wave. Our ushers have a gift for you, and Ian will help us sing happy birthday, or somebody will help us sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Tammy's birthday is tomorrow, by the way, so wish Tammy a very happy birthday. So is Pat. Prayer, if there's something going on in your life for which you would like prayer, please have a seat in the chapel, and then a practitioner or practitioner waiting licensing will pray with you. And if you could please help us on your way out, please bring any stray animals that you see. These kind. Bring them with you, and there are boxes and baskets at all of the exits to drop them off. That will help us get this room cleaned so that they can set it up as a banquet. Thank you.
Stand and take the hand of the person on your right and on your left, and join me in just a brief moment of benediction. Know with me that you and I are never alone, but God is where we are right now and always. The God of your understanding is with you right now and always. And the only thing that you and I will ever need to do is look inside ourselves, because it is there we will find that we are guided, directed, sustained, and inspired. And this God is a God that knows only good too. So joyously, let us make use of these gifts so that we can cause others' eyes to sparkle. And so it is. And please repeat after me, if you so choose. I am at home in the heart of God. My life is anchored in truth. I can never be separate. I live in the consciousness of peace. I release all fear. I am living love. And so it is.